Thank you for keeping it tuned in to the Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch here on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And on last week's edition of the show, we talked about some big name icons in the sports and entertainment world who passed away, from Malcolm Jamal Warner, from The Cosby Show, Chuck Mangione, obviously Ozzy Osbourne, and Hulk Hogan. And a death has hit here locally in Chicago for multiple generation of sports fans, for people who've just grown up in the city. And that is after the news came down, the tragic news that Hall of Famer, Chicago Cubs great Ryne Sandberg had passed away at the age of 65. This comes to us from ESPN. Hall of Famer and beloved Cubs star Ryne Sandberg dies at 65. Ryne Sandberg, a Hall of Fame second baseman who became one of baseball's best all-around players while starring for the Chicago Cubs, died Monday at age 65. Sandberg was surrounded by his family when he died at his home, according to the team. Sandberg announced in January of 2024 that he had been diagnosed metastatic prostate cancer. He had chemotherapy and radiation treatments, and then said in August of 2024 that he was cancer-free. But he posted on Instagram on December 10th that his cancer had returned and spread to other organs. He announced this month that he was still fighting while, quote, looking forward to making most of every day with my loving family and friends. Cubs chairman Tom Ricketts said Sandberg, quote, will be remembered as one of the all-time greats in nearly 150 years of this historic franchise. His dedication to and respect for the game, along with his unrelenting integrity, grit, hustle, and competitive fire, were hallmarks of his career, Ricketts said in the team's statement. The Cubs said they would wear a special jersey patch to commemorate Sandberg for the rest of the season. There's a whole generation of Cub fans that adore Ryno, Cubs left fielder Ian Happ said after Chicago's 8-4 loss Monday. Quote, you could feel it. You could feel it when he was around. I can't say enough what he meant to all of us, the fan base and the players. Sandberg was born and raised in Spokane, Washington. He was selected out of high school by the Philadelphia Phillies in the 20th round of the 1978 amateur draft. He made his major league debut in 1981 and went 1-for-6 in 13 games with the Phillies. In January of 1982, he was traded to Chicago with Larry Bowa for veteran infielder Ivan De Jesus. In turn, into one of the most lopsided deals in baseball history. Sandberg hit .285 with 282 home runs, 1,061 RBIs, and 344 steals in 15 years with Chicago. He made 10 All-Star teams, winning the Home Run Derby in 1990 and collected 9 Gold Gloves. Ryne Sandberg was a legend of the Chicago Cubs franchise and beloved figure throughout Major League Baseball, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said. He was a 5-tool player who excelled in every facet of the game thanks to his power, speed, and work ethic. Even with Sandberg's stellar play, the Cubs made only 2 postseason appearances while he was with the team. He was the National League MVP in 1984, batting .314 with 19 home runs, 84 RBIs, 32 steals, 19 triples, and 114 runs scored. Chicago won the NL East, and Sandberg hit .368, 7-4-19 in the playoffs. But the Cubs were eliminated by the San Diego Padres after winning the first 2 games of the NL Championship Series at Wrigley Field. And you can read the entire article over on ESPN. They talk about, obviously, the game in St. Louis, the Ryne Sandberg game. They talk about his connection with Greg Maddux, his great Hall of Fame speech, and obviously the great speech he gave when the Cubs gave him his statue. And I get a little emotional because currently right now, and I know a lot of you listening to it have family members that are dealing with their own form of cancer. And anybody listening to this, the degrees of separation is not far, whether it's yourself, a loved one, a spouse, God forbid, a child of yours, a parent of yours, whatever the case may be. And we know how devastating this disease can be, whatever it attacks in the human body. And to see such a beloved figure who we had so much optimism that they were on the road to recovery. And then come holiday season of last year, to hear that it not only came back, but it has spread, was heartbreaking. And a little inside baseball for all of you who are new to the Sports Cubicle, Sports from the Couch, whatever it may be. My parents back in the mid to late 80s met as teenagers at the McDonald's across the streets from Wrigley Field. They were manager and cashier. And they would bring the Cubs players their breakfast buffets, the hot cakes and the McMuffins and the hash browns and the coffee and all that. They would bring them to the dugout. And my parents, had a friend who dated one of the star players of that team. And there was just a lot of connection to those early to late 80s and 90s teams for me personally. And obviously my parents would eventually start dating, get married. And I always said I was born to be a Cub fan, right? And even being able to do this as a living, being able to cover sports, talk to some of the greatest minds that cover it and play it, and all the other things I've done in media, I've never lost being able to disconnect and be a fan. And when I decided to play organized baseball, I wanted to play second base. My favorite player all time is Sammy Sosa. He's my favorite player. I know what comes with that. But I wanted to be Ryne Sandberg. I wanted to be Ryno. I didn't want to be Sammy. I wore 21. I didn't think I was good enough to wear number 23. That's how much Ryne Sandberg meant to me as somebody who was 6, 7, 8 when he was going down to his last seasons. So I don't have a memory of necessarily seeing Ryne Sandberg make a big play. I just grew up knowing what he meant, the stature, what he held, the gravitas, the aura the word the kids use these days, that is Ryne Sandberg. I remember being upset that he was never the manager of the Chicago Cubs, but he always had time for fans, always had time for the organization, always loved the game of baseball, and did it with such class. It's always sad when you start seeing the musicians, the entertainers, the athletes that you grew up on, that you admire from a distance, start to depart and enter the next phase of existence, whatever it may be, the other side of the veil. And when they leave us so young, because don't lose track of it. There's no doubt about it. 65 is still young. That was a young man. It was an older young man, but there's still so much life, so much knowledge that was still yet to be given that has now left. And you knew his impact in baseball was huge when every team, every journalist, every broadcaster, every fan from all ages of life gave condolences and showed the respect that he had earned, that he deserved. You hear some great stories from people we've had on the show, people we admire here on the show, from Barry Rosner, David Schuster, David Hall, Mully. You just keep going down the list. I will never forget hearing their stories, talking about just the ultimate professional, especially someone like Barry Rosner. But I keep thinking back about the moment hearing Ryno on the radio on 670 The Score, talking to, I believe it was Layla Rahimi and Lawrence Holmes. And I think Dan Bernstein was still there at this point. And being emotional, hearing Ryno being so emotional about his journey and being cancer-free at that time. And I think about that. It's just one of those weird things. I know a lot of you have those moments in clips or talk shows that just kind of live rent-free in your mind. This was one of them. So I know a lot of people have had a tough 2 weeks with deaths when it comes to people of their childhood, icons and figures of their childhood that aren't family members, that aren't people in their day-to-day lives that they interact with, but were part of their lives day-to-day. This one emotionally impacted me. This was one that stuck with me. This is one that I keep thinking about, because I also think about the lesson that can be learned from this. We know he, as in Ryne Sandberg, had a great team around him, a medical team. We know that he was on top of things. And for people listening, we don't have all those resources. So one last lesson from the greatest second baseman of all time. I can say that I will say that. Make sure you get your procedures done. Go get your blood work done. Your colon, prostate, your heart, your brain, your ears, your nose, all of it. Go get it checked. There's a lot of great things in life. I know there's a lot of stresses too. I'm going through them myself right now. But as a new father, the only thing I can ever think about is how valuable time and health are. And neither one of those things are guaranteed, even if you are the greatest Cub of all time. One of the most historic franchises in all of sports history. It doesn't matter. So take this and remember it to go get yourself checked out. Do what Ryno did. Constantly go to the doctor. Take care of yourself. Fight the good fight as long as you can. This, I know, devastated a lot of people. I know a lot of people keep using the term one of the good ones. This was one of the good ones. If not for anything else, it was a lesson in how to carry yourself. To carry yourself knowing that the grind was part of the greatness, that being humble was part of the greatness, knowing you're great is part of the greatness. Number 23, Ryne Sandberg, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, dead at the age of 65. And he will be missed. He will be remembered, and he will always be beloved in the city of Chicago and in baseball everywhere. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. You're staying tuned to the Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch on WCPT 820 AM, heartlandsignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. We'll be back.